The lights inside the large theater were soft and steady, glowing like a calm evening sky. The audience settled into their seats with quiet murmurs and small coughs, the kind of sounds people make when they are waiting for something but do not yet know what it will be. On the stage, the familiar judge's table stood firm and polished. Simon Cowell sat in his chair with his arms crossed, his expression neutral and guarded. Beside him were Heidi Klum, Sofia Vergara, and Howie Mandel, each relaxed in their own way, ready for another audition. Backstage, a young man named Ethan Parker stood alone near the curtain. He was 22 years old, tall but slightly hunched, as if he was used to making himself smaller. His hands trembled as he rubbed them together, feeling the roughness of his own palms. Ethan had waited years for this moment, yet now that it was here, his chest felt tight. The sounds of the crowd seeped through the thick curtain, reminding him that hundreds of people were about to watch him try. Ethan grew up in a small town in Ohio, where life moved slowly and dreams often stayed quiet. His father worked long shifts at a factory, and his mother cleaned houses to help pay the bills. Music was not something people in his family talked about seriously. It was something you enjoyed on the radio while cooking dinner or driving to work. Still, when Ethan was a child, he found himself drawn to sounds and melodies. He sang softly to himself while doing chores, letting the music carry his thoughts to places he could not yet name. As he grew older, the world became louder and more demanding. Responsibilities piled up, and expectations pressed down on him. Ethan tried to be practical. He took a job at a hardware store after high school and told himself that singing was just a hobby. But every night, when the store lights turned off and he returned to his small bedroom, he sang again. It was the only time he felt fully awake. Now, standing behind the curtain, Ethan wondered if he had made a mistake. He knew the show's reputation. He had seen clips online of Simon Cowell pressing the red buzzer within seconds. 17 seconds. That number echoed in his mind. He imagined his audition ending before it even began, his dream cut short by a single sound. A stagehand nodded to him. It was time. Ethan walked onto the stage, the bright lights washing over him like a sudden wave. He blinked and adjusted his eyes, taking in the vast room. The audience applauded politely, not knowing what to expect. He felt very small under their gaze. "Hello," Simon said, his voice calm but firm. "What's your name?" "My name is Ethan Parker," Ethan replied. His voice wavered slightly, but he steadied himself. "And where are you from, Ethan?" Sophia asked with a warm smile. "I'm from a small town in Ohio," he said. "What will you be doing for us today?" Howie asked. "I'll be singing an original song," Ethan answered. Simon raised an eyebrow. "Original," he repeated. "All right, whenever you're ready." Ethan took a deep breath. The stage felt silent now, as if the room itself was holding still. He closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of late nights in his bedroom, of his parents' tired faces, of the quiet hope he carried inside. Then he began. The first notes were soft, almost fragile. His voice was gentle and unsure, floating into the space like a question. The melody moved slowly, and for a moment, it seemed to drift without direction. In the judges' row, Simon leaned back slightly, his hand inching closer to the red buzzer. His face showed little patience. 17 seconds passed, and the song still felt hesitant. In the audience, a few people shifted in their seats. Some whispered to each other. The energy in the room wavered. Uncertain. Ethan felt it. He sensed the doubt, the thinning thread of attention. His heart pounded, and fear rose in his throat. For a brief moment, he considered stopping. But then he remembered why he was there. He remembered the nights when singing was the only thing that made sense. He opened his eyes and took another breath, deeper this time. The song changed. Ethan's voice grew stronger, fuller. The melody deepened, and the lyrics became clearer. He sang about feeling invisible, about wanting to be heard in a world that moves too fast. His words were simple, but they carried weight. Each line flowed into the next, steady and sincere. Simon's hand paused. He leaned forward slightly, his expression shifting from boredom to curiosity. Heidi tilted her head, listening more closely. Sophia's smile softened, and Howie nodded almost without realizing it. The room grew quieter. The audience leaned in, drawn by the honesty in Ethan's voice. There was no flashy performance, no dramatic movement. Just a young man standing under bright lights, sharing a piece of himself. As the song continued, Ethan's nerves began to settle. His voice no longer shook. He felt grounded, connected to the moment. The fear that had threatened to overwhelm him faded, replaced by a calm focus. He sang as if he were back in his room, alone, safe. When the final note faded, silence filled the theater. It was not the awkward kind, but a full, thoughtful quiet. Then the audience erupted into applause, louder and longer than before. Ethan stood still, stunned, his chest rising and falling as he tried to understand what had just happened. The judges clapped as well. Simon did not smile, but there was something softer in his eyes. That was interesting, Simon said, breaking the silence. I'll be honest with you. In the first few seconds, I thought this wasn't going anywhere. I was very close to buzzing you. Ethan nodded, his heart sinking slightly. But, Simon continued, something changed. You found your voice. And when you did, it felt real. It felt honest. I like that. Ethan swallowed hard, emotion rising in his chest. Heidi leaned forward. Your song felt like a story, she said gently. It started quiet, but it grew. I could feel what you were feeling. Sophia smiled warmly. You made me want to listen, she said. That is very important. Howie nodded. You reminded me that not everything has to be loud to be powerful, he added. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. He had not expected this. He had hoped, but he had not expected. Simon looked at him for a moment longer. This competition is tough, he said. And you will need confidence. But you have something worth building on. The judges voted one by one. Each yes felt like a gentle lift, easing the weight Ethan had carried for so long. When the final decision was announced, he covered his face with his hands, overwhelmed. As Ethan walked off the stage, the applause followed him. Backstage, he leaned against a wall, letting the moment sink in. He thought of his parents, of the small town he came from, of the boy who used to sing quietly at night. He realized that even if this was as far as he went, he had already changed something inside himself. Later that evening, Ethan called his mother. His voice shook as he told her what had happened. She cried on the other end of the line, her pride and love flowing through every word. For the first time, Ethan felt seen, not just by strangers, but by himself. The journey ahead was uncertain. There would be challenges, criticism, and moments of doubt. But Ethan knew now that he could face them. He had learned that sometimes, the beginning is not the whole story. Sometimes, all it takes is a little more time, a little more courage, for something real to emerge. As the theater lights dimmed and the night moved on, Ethan carried that lesson with him. His voice, once nearly silenced at 17 seconds, had found its place, and in that quiet victory, he felt a deep, steady peace.